Hello and welcome to the Low Code Campfire. This is the last edition for 2024. It's the December 2024 edition, number 176, the Christmas edition. I am Dale Warner, Head of Support for Plant and App. Joined today we have Patrick Anderson, Technical Success Manager, and our founder and CEO, Bogdon Litescu. Let's see, this is an event that we do most Fridays, 10 a.m. Central Time, and it's an opportunity to get together, talk about low code in general, Plant and App in specific, and the things that you are dealing with in your low code implementations. This is all skill levels welcome. Everyone is welcome to ask questions, beginner or expert alike. This is something that we record and put on YouTube. You can get to all these recordings at youtube.com/plantandapp. We're going to run a little different agenda today after we say hello. We say hello because we're a friendly group. We're going to go around the campfire with a couple of new topics. First, there's the tentative product roadmap, and Bogdan is going to talk about that. And then we'll do first call, even though it's not first. And I know that there's been at least one contribution to the Campfire website, so we'll get that done. And then we'll sign off, final thoughts, and after an hour or so, we go into our afterglow segment. That is where we turn off the recording, raise a virtual eggnog, and enjoy each other for a few more minutes. So do engage with us, jump in, you can show and tell, you can chat with us, but mostly let's engage and enjoy each other. As always, you can submit questions and topics for this meeting in advance. That can be done with this QR code or through just a simple email to support@plantandapp.com. I said we do this most Fridays because we canceled it for next week and the week following. We with those short weeks, if you're on holiday, you don't want to join us, and if you're not on holiday, they're short weeks and you're probably going to be busy. So we'll get together again starting January 10th. Hello, everyone. Happy holidays and Merry Christmas.
Hello.
Merry Christmas, Dale.
Mm.
Bogdan, all you guys.
Thank you. Oh, down on the
Happy
beach.
holidays.
Happy
holidays.
Yeah, I intended to put caroling. You know, I've always threatened to sing, and I thought maybe we could do some caroling at the end. So we'll see how the time goes. Well, great. Bogdan, are you ready to talk about the product roadmap?
And notice I phrase this as tentative and ambitious. We have many projects ongoing, some of which are long overdue. So happy to share some of this with you today, and also get your feedback. Anything that it's on the roadmap. Of course, feedback helps us better design it so it satisfies more use cases. So let's get started. Good. So the first thing on the list, which hopefully we'll manage to launch around the end of January, beginning of February, it's the starter plan. So our goal here is to lower the entry barrier into Plant and App, to be able to, from the DNN community, take more people in, but also offer it as an offering to everyone visiting our site. The reason is to grow our community, because so far most of our customers, as many of you hinted, are medium, large organizations that can afford the entry barrier. Smaller businesses, what we see is that they can afford the full price once they get and they leverage the platform to solve the business problems, right? So this is our attempt to lower the entry barrier and then grow together with the customers towards a full license. And part of this will also be a marketplace that we started a long time ago. It was put on hold, but now we are reviving it. First, it will be about this upgrades from the starter plan, but we also have packages, add-ons that never made it. Perhaps you've seen the passkey, Low Code Cafe, that will be something available to the marketplace, and many other add-ons. And at some point, hopefully by the end of next year, we'll manage to get into the templates as well. on the marketplace. So being able to start from a template saves a lot of time, but also moving towards the community being able to publish their own templates, their own content, free or for a fee.
And as is our pattern, this is a conversation. If you have questions or thoughts along the way, we encourage you to engage, but otherwise we'll just move on.
Cool.
Oh, Don, see, I can count on Don. He raised his hand and everything.
I'm very happy. Excuse me. I'm very happy that there's a plan for a starter level. My interest is in knowing what features are going to be at that level. You don't have to explain that, but a document to that effect coming along would be very helpful for me. The reason why I'm here today is because of a large organization that shows the product. I've always been a proponent of the product before it started, and so I love it. But I can't put it in everybody's site because it's not, the pricing is not for everyone and not exactly clear what I can do, and I don't want to muddy the water. So I'd love to know the details of that pricing structure versus feature thing.
Yep. So basically, the starter plan will have the entity builder, meaning you are able to build database and the related screens, meaning forms, listing, tabs. So this being able to build these data applications. So they will not have all the features, meaning some features will be on higher tiers, like for example, the ability to do custom SQL queries. So mainly it will be the actions generated by the entity model. So very good for doing basic data applications, not good enough to build very custom applications at this stage. So it's still a bit of moving piece, what exactly we'll have, but as a big picture, this will be the components: forms, listings, tabs, and entities.
And we'll put you down to make sure you're aware as we settle in on exactly what the content will be, to make sure that you'll be aware, Don.
That sounds great. One of the things that DNN had originally, and then it was lost, was the ability to use DNN as a membership platform, a paid membership platform, an automatic paid membership platform, where somebody could come in and say, I would like to be at this level. Here's my money. And it goes. And then they pull all of that stuff out. And I have used Planet App for just that reason. And that seems like a very simple thing. So if the starter level would allow for a membership site, and that's pretty much all it has to do, that would be wonderful.
Sure. Probably it will not include the, let's say, the Stripe add-on or Ask-Rise add-on, Authorize.net add-on. So that will be something, if automated payment is necessary, probably that will be a separate add-on that is purchased.
PayPal would be nice.
Or PayPal, yeah.
Give me some little something, but then if I have to go to authorize.net because you're a larger organization and you don't want to use PayPal, everybody thinks that PayPal is the base level thing for any kind of payment. So if I could do PayPal with the base level, that would be great. And then the add-ons for the other people, Stripe and everybody else, Authorize and all that stuff. An add-on makes sense too.
Very good feedback.
Good, yeah, absolutely. Good feedback. We'll put that into the hopper. Anyone else with thoughts about starter plan before we move on?
Well, I do want to say I'm really happy to see it coming. This is exciting stuff. Looking forward to having a lot of people adopt at this level and jump in, join us.
Yes.
Come in, the water's fine.
Yeah.
Nice.
Okay. Another big area, you've already seen some of it through campfires or Low Code Cafes, or simply in 126 where we have it as experimental, but it was worked quite a lot for 127. So now you see in the new workflow UI, you have the autocomplete integrated for tokens. You'll see that the editing experience is a lot faster because we replaced all the action editing with the new interface. You've seen the contract, the parallel gateway, so many different improvements. Also, we just added a feature where the tests are saved. So when you do a test workflow, the values are saved, so then you don't have to fill them every time. And also we had a lot of pop-ups when editing a workflows. We consolidated everything in a single setting screens like we have on other components, like on automation, you have a setting screen. You don't need to see many different pop-ups to set different things. So lots of nice improvements. Also, we have upgraded the library behind it, which is BPM and IO, and you'll see a facelift as well from the UI perspective. So we are really excited about this new workflow builder.
Bogdan, would you mind touching on the test improvement part again? I didn't quite catch what that was about.
So the test, basically, when you have that pop-up to test workflow, you have to type in some values, and then you do some changes and you test again, and then you have to type the values again. That's the part that we addressed. The values from the previous test will remain saved in the browser. So then you can test repeatedly without having to fill in every time.
Nice.
The next, sorry?
Go ahead.
The next iteration for us for this is to be able to save this test. So then you have a bunch of tests saved that you can just toggle from a dropdown. And then the ultimate destination for us will be to automate this test, right? To say every time I want to save, I want these 10 tests to run, so I know I didn't break anything, right? That will be the ultimate goal.
Well, thanks for it's funny. I sit on the product team and I wasn't aware that that's where we were going. I might have missed a meeting, but that sounds like a good step, being able to develop faster. I was working with the client yesterday. We were, trying to fail faster so that we could get to the solution. But anyway, those kinds of things will certainly help.
That's great.
Dale, if you quit taking those cruises, you'll learn more about this product.
You're sitting there on an island someplace. Don't lecture me.
Nah, this is just a filter.
Well, but you got the shirt that goes with it. It's very convincing.
Yeah, it's my birthday today. That's why
Oh, well,
I'm
happy
celebrating.
birthday.
Well, happy birthday.
Happy birthday.
Happy birthday.
I'm 76 today, guys.
Wow.
Cool. This is another piece that I'm very, very excited about. So, our versioning screen that it does provide some value today in terms of being able to have some sort of change management to track changes that were done to a low-code application. But what you'll already see in 127, we did a couple of major improvements. One is we are now able to have multiple environments mapped to a single Git repo, which will make it easier to see the differences between environments, although that needs to be done in Git, so it's still a technical stuff for local developers to do. But it's a step for us forward. And the more exciting thing that we see very little adoption for people using versioning. I'm not sure how many of you are using it. Nobody. Okay. So yeah, that's what I expected. So for example, the second item here, we added a feature on the listing, on the workflow listing. You can revert a workflow to a previous version. So you see all the versions that you committed through versioning, and then you can say, okay, I want to get back to the version from 10 months ago. You can overwrite the existing workflow or create it as a clone, so then you can compare how it was compared to how it is today. So that already starts making it useful, not just for, let's say, the governance of an application, but now it makes it useful for developers to make sure they always can go back to something compared to current version and so on. So that's something that already launching experimentally in 127. And once we do it for workflows, we'll extend it to do it for everything, for tokens, for entities, for actions, for forms, and so on. So that will be a big milestone for us to be able to to restore individual components, so not an entire application, individual components, and and work through it. And in the same thing, because we added this, the next micro step, the next milestone for us on this will be to have a library of workflows. So meaning in the workflow view, in the workflow screen, at the top, you'll have a library button, and then you'll see some workflows that you can already import. So the workflows that you see Dale posting on the Campfire, you have to go import them, copy paste them, know that they are there in the first place, right? Which of course is not that convenient. What we'll do with this piece, you'll be able just through a listing, through a pop-up listing, find the workflow that you need from the library, click a button, and it's there, imported. So this will be a milestone towards the marketplace. In the marketplace, we'll be able to have more sophisticated applications that are composed of multiple components, but at this level, it will be just one thing at a time, but still very useful. And of course, we'll try to open this as early as possible for others to start publishing their own thing. Right? So if you have a workflow that you know you need and other needs, just put it in the library, and then everybody benefits from it.
Sounds great, Bogdan. Sounds great.
And of course, the ultimate goal for us for versioning is to get also to automate deployment. I'm not sure if we'll manage to get there next year, but similar to how you can upgrade Tentative with one click of a button, that's where we want to get with deployments, moving from development to production with one click that does everything. That's the end goal for this feature for us. Because it is a real pain. This one already made it to 127, but it got postponed a bit, so probably it will be 128. So you know when you click to upgrade a Platinum instance, you just see a loading animation, and then 1, 2, 3 minutes later, it says it is done, but you never know if it was successful or not, right? You find out maybe weeks later that something wasn't upgraded properly, so then a lot of time is spent on support, debugging, investigating the issues. So what this feature is about, when you click that button, you go to a page like this, where you see a detailed log of everything that's happening, everything that's being installed step by step. And also when it fails, you see on the screen with advice on how to proceed. Initially, it will be most about contacting support, and we'll pass the logs automatically to the support ticket. So then it makes it easy for Dale to see what the problem is and escalate accordingly. And then also, most of the upgrades that we see failing are failing because the migration scripts run in a order different than what we like them to run in the order that we like them to run. And this is because DNN takes care of running those migration scripts for us, and we have no control on the dependency on the order in which they run. So that's one of the other big things we are working on, to do our own mechanism to run the migration scripts, so they are always done in the correct order.
Well, speaking from a support perspective, I'll appreciate having this in place. The sooner we know that something didn't go right, the sooner that we can fix it. It's the hidden ones that'll, if they run below the surface for weeks and months, they're very hard to find and track down. So this will be great.
Cool. Another big area of focus, like it's possible it's 128, or we might have to push it based on other priorities, but it's something that we are already discussing. It's extending the entity model. There's many small things and some big things that need to happen there, but some of the small things include different property types. Like we often see the need for GUIDs, so people just do a text box, but then you don't have proper proper functions to use on that column in SQL. hierarchy ID comes up quite often. I'm not sure how many of you used it in SQL Server, but it's quite powerful to do hierarchical structures. Big int also came up, but also then getting to fancier properties, like why shouldn't workflow be a property type, since we have the ability to run workflow in a generic way nowadays, right? We'll have a property for it. And then also maybe status entities always have been a challenge, because anytime you need a status, you'd create a new entity just to have 3 records in there and then have to maintain it and so on. That could be a property where you just give the statuses, the list of statuses directly in the entity builder, and then you no longer have to have a new entities with foreign keys and everything. And then making the entities easier to work with outside the SQL context, meaning exposing them as tokens, which we see people doing quite a lot, doing database tokens over entities, whereas that could be generated automatically, similar to how we do the entity actions. Another big thing for us is the use of GUIDs instead of integer IDs, especially at the configuration level. That is a must when we work across multiple environments, because things will have different IDs on dev versus production. So we start using GUIDs more and more at the configuration level, but also at the application level. We see many enterprise applications needing to have this GUID to be used as the ID column of entities, because then there's a couple of immediate benefits. I mean, first you have obfuscation, right? Nobody can just increment the ID in the query string and get all the values. And then also deployments, right? If you have data that lives across systems, you can match it by GUID, which would never change, compared to integer IDs that will be very specific to each system. Some work around permissions. So this has been a long request to separate read entity from view entity permissions. So it's possible from the application to be able to interact with the data as a user, but without the user actually seeing the page that is generated, for example, by the entity builder. Yes, and finally, we generate all these entity pages. They are okay. We see many people using them as the admin interface into application, and not so much as the end user interface of interacting with the data. So we aim to improve those generated pages. There are some bugs that we need to fix when they get generated, but also making them look nicer and nicer for the end user, improving the user experience quite a bit. Let's see. This is a big project that, again, we started, I think, last year. Last year we started this. We have to shift focus from it, but we started working on a new form builder that is more drag and drop style, so it's more modern from the configuration perspective, while maintaining the same level of power and flexibility that Action Form has, because I think that's one of the greatest benefits of Action Form. It's quite capable, supports so many different things. But many of our customers tell us that try many different things is that it's probably the most advanced form builder they ever saw. So I'm not sure how many have you tried, including these ones that are like SAS. And then also the Action Form, because it's built with AngularJS. AngularJS hasn't been supported in, I think, 3-4 years, so it's already flagging a lot of security tools. So that's one of the main arguments that came. We need to rewrite the forms entirely because we need to change the underlying library. So then this will both solve this AngularJS exception, but also I'm not sure how many of you are looking at penetration tests or security scans. We have other issues as well. For example, if you would use the on-click section to put some custom JavaScript, that will trigger security alerts in various software. So the proper way to do it is to bring it through an API, so it's not injected in the page, things like that. So all of these things will be by design the foundation of the Forms 2.0. That will work side by side with Action for probably for a long time.
And I think the plan for that is to have a migration path, correct?
Yes, ideally, yes. At least to a certain percentage, because probably we'll never manage to arrive at 100% feature parity. So to a certain degree, it will be a migration path.
Good. No question on forms?
No questions, just very happy that that's all happening. And it is probably the most, well, it is the most advanced form builder that I've ever seen. Very pleased with it.
I agree. It's kind of the Swiss Army knife of the tools that we have, isn't it? That together with all the actions, you can do a ton with it.
Exactly.
That's why I was heartbroken when I couldn't buy it anymore.
Another reason why the entry plan sounds like a great plan.
Yep.
It keeps everything going with what you want to do, but lets more people come along with it.
Yep. I agree.
Okay, so part of us doing this new action form is also the ability to run it from Kubernetes, because we are transitioning more and more to using Kubernetes Linux .NET Core. That is the modern tech stack. Sooner or later, .NET Framework will go out, so DNN will go out of business as well. I think 2030 is now the milestone for .NET Framework support from Microsoft. So that is a deadline that we have to be prepared for. But also there's other things that we want to address as part of this rebuilding of technology, which is, for example, for tokens, you already see autocomplete everywhere. But on the new token engine, we'll also go further to have references of tokens, meaning you create a tokens, you use it in 100 different places, being able to find the references without hack your scripts through the database, right? That is the goal that we get to. And we already have a POC on this. It's quite nice, where we keep all references to all tokens in the database. So then we know when a token is added somewhere, a reference is created, so we know where it's being used. And same, if you go to the next slide, same for the action engine. As you know, we have Forms has an action engine, listing has an action engine, different tables. Some are JSON based, some are property based. Workflow has its own engine, action engine. So the idea for us right now is to unify everything in a single engine. Again, that can run both inside DNN, but also in Kubernetes. So it works both ways. So then it will be a lot easier to do migration of action, migration of properties of actions, and bulk manipulation of actions and things like that, because it will be a single table or 3 tables for everything. So all of this needs to happen together, because, and that's what we are going to do with Forms 2.0. It will work to run it from DNN, but it will also work in Kubernetes, meaning the entire action stack, including replacing tokens and so on, will happen on a microservice that lives in Kubernetes on a Linux machine and so on. Next, please. So basically, this is what I just said. And with the mention that next year we are already start using the Kubernetes method in a hybrid mode, meaning on our infrastructure, we have both what you are used to, like a DNN instance on IIS on a virtual machine. But that application for some jobs, it just sends a message to the Kubernetes, to a microservice. The microservice does the work and returns back a response. For example, one of the first microservices that we did is a PDF generator. So our current action to generate PDF is based on a very old library that hasn't been updated in a long time. It doesn't support Bootstrap 5 or Flex styles, for example, so it's outdated. The new generate PDF action, because it runs in a microservice where we are able to use any technology. I think, I'm not sure if we did it in .NET or Python, but it basically doesn't matter. It's an API that just generates a PDF that uses the Chrome engine. So it's rendered according to latest Chrome, supports JavaScript, supports everything. So then this is the advantage of the microservices, that you can run different technologies in different microservices, and it doesn't matter. They all converge to the same output. But again, this will be something that will work on the long term, because we are not going to replace DNN for a long time. So it will work side by side for a long term.
Well, that is ambitious.
It is ambitious. And I know this is painful for some people, but in order to be able to build new things, we have to get rid of all things. So I'm sure you all have a garage that is full of things, and then you get something new and you have to throw something out. So that is the same situation for us. The more code we have, the less we are able to move forward, because it's a lot more to maintain. So things like Bootstrap 3, we aim that next year we'll finally remove from the product, meaning all the code, all the templates, everything about it will be gone. We have this module URL adapter redirect toolkit that are largely unmaintained, but they still solve some very important problems that are not solved yet. So we need to incorporate those into Plant&App. And then, of course, the AngularJS getting rid of everywhere. All the workflow UI will be removed probably in 1.28. And then you see all these old screens like connectors. You can still get to the old interface that you open from Actions in a pop-up that looks very old and ugly. And it's not as nice as the connector screen. And then even if any of you use our OpenID Connect, it's a setting in the persona bar, a page somewhere that is old UI. So we want to consolidate all of this and get rid of all the legacy UIs. So that will be cleanup, probably the spring cleanup season.
Since you're mentioning cleaning up Angular, and I see Ben posted about a question about a timeline or an estimated timeline for getting rid of Angular.
So I think the big problem with AngularJS is forms, because the rest are admin modules that normally you access as a super user. So those are usually not the security risk. The security risk usually comes on the front end from the generated forms. So that is our attempt with Form 2.0 in 1.28, which hopefully will be around mid next year. We'll have a preview version of it. And then by the end of next year, we hope to have a stable version of it, maybe not feature parity with action form. The milestone will be that anything that can be generated from the entity builder to be supported in the new form. So that will be the milestone for us to hit, to consider that it's usable at some point. And probably afterwards, we'll start migrating the rest until everything that is needed is on the new forms. In terms of the admin interfaces, we already replaced quite a lot of them. We'll continue replacing them as we progress. For example, the old connectors interface, that's something that's going to be removed first, because we already have the alternative, the new connector interface. Whereas other things like, for example, Search Boost, which is a whole application in itself, that probably will take longer until we redo it completely. Okay. And the final piece that I want to mention is that we also want to invest in the front end, in the end user UI, let's say like this. So that means having more nicer themes out of the box, but also creating. We want to create like a theme kit for developers to be able to create their own themes faster. And also, that gear icon, many of you that use it, I know you love it. And then it was often a question, how can we have this in other skins? So that's something that will decouple from our skin to be able to be placed on any skin and provide exactly the same experience. And finally, when they mentioned the Swiss Army knife, which is action form, we use action form for other things as well. So if we need a redirect on the page, we put a form with a rule to redirect on page load. Right? If you need a content module, you put an action form and place content and do layouts inside action form. So, our vision includes having our own content modules to make this easier to build content while leveraging the entity model and everything, the forms, the listing, everything that's in there to edit the content, and then have a content module where, similar to Too Sexy Content, where you can have some sort of templates that consume the content in the entity model. Okay, yeah, it's a long list, ambitious. But you can see that we have a clear vision that while there's always new things to develop, we also have to take care of the foundation in order to sustain the new features. And taking care of the foundation means a lot of features that might not be visible or valuable immediately, but as they mature, that's when they will change everything, like the token references, action references, things like that.
Bogdan, Don has a question.
Yes, thank you for all of this. It's phenomenal. I want to go back to the last thing you were talking about with themes and content modules, and you mentioned themes in general, and that you were going to create a way of you making themes, and then you mentioned Too Sexy very quickly, and I didn't quite catch the relationship there. So here's the general question. The content module you're suggesting is your way of doing a Too Sexy kind of
Exactly.
play,
Yeah.
as opposed to interfacing somehow with Too Sexy.
Yep.
Got it.
Just as a side story, we use Too Sexy Content on our website on Tentative.com because it was originally Aaron Lopez that built it for us, and he's a fan of Too Sexy Content. And around 2-3 months ago, I got inside it because we built the Bazinga website, so I had to learn Too Sexy Content. And then, of course, I struggled with it because now I had to learn a new data model, whereas we already have a very good data model built with Entity Builder that's also more easy to understand because it's a table at the end of the day, whereas with Too Sexy Content, you never know what it is and where to get it and how to query it. So then we already have the data model. For us, it's just about building the content that ties the data model to a rendering, to a Razor script or whatever needs to happen to transform it in a beautiful thing. So that's
the other question that I had to do with the mention of themes and making your own skins, etc.
Yeah.
We typically a skin. We're big fans of Easy DNN, so we use their themes quite extensively. And there's a few other folks that we do that. So what I typically do is I have several administration pages for me to get in quickly to look at data. But those administration pages are the pages that you generate with the entity builder. Then to actually display things for the client, I recreate a form or a list on their pages and the theme. So my thought is an easier way for me to take the work that you've created with the nice little gear menu and a form to add and edit and a list and the things that you create in that page and plop that into an Easy DNN theme, as opposed to using a different theme and trying to make it look just like the DNN theme of all of the other pages on the site.
Mhm. Yeah, I think decoupling the gear icon is one side of the story, so this will make it possible to use it on any skin, the gear icon. And then in terms of forms listing, we do add the existing module as a reference quite a lot, so we don't have to maintain a module twice. For example, forms listing worked quite well, but then from the admin page, using it as a reference on the public page, let's say. You understand what I mean, Don?
Not sure I got that, no.
And this is, it occurs to me, this is something that we don't demonstrate very much in our cafe demonstrations, for example. So maybe this is something we can take up in the new year.
Cool.
This difference between the administrative pages that get created versus how to consume them easily as a developer, consume them in a public way.
That'd be great, yeah. Thank you.
So I'll just mention we've come to the end of the list that Bogdan had put together, and any any questions or conversations you want to have around that before we kind of break into our normal agenda, it'd be a great time for that. If there's anything that piqued your interest or you had questions about. And Ben, since you phrased your question as if you missed it, making me think you might have come in late, I'll just point out, go back again to the beginning, which was this is a tentative and ambitious version of our product roadmap. We know where we want to go. We have lots of things that need to be done, and this isn't a contract that we're going to do all of them, but it is aspirational where we want to go.
Yeah, I just want to chime in and say that that's a wonderfully ambitious plan you've got going on there, a lot of which I hadn't heard until today, and happy to hear it. So I appreciate having this a demonstration, Bogdan, and telling us what you're working on, giving us some things to look forward to. This all sounds really cool. I'm going to enjoy using what you're building.
Good to hear, Mark.
Yeah, I think it's good to know that somebody is thinking way down the line, and Bogdan is particularly good at that. And I get amazed at the number of details that you hold in your head, Bogdan, because this is just one facet of what we're working on. Good. All right. If no other questions, I will move on, and sticking to our tradition, even though it's not first, we'll do a first call, and then I do have a couple of topics picked out if there isn't any. So, but we will open the floor. Great, here we go. We'll come back to that. One thing I wanted to, I try to keep our eye on where we are with versions and version adoption. And I've mentioned this, and one of the reasons that I continue to mention this, version 126 is actually the only one that's in its support lifetime, which is to say, if you're not making plans to move to 126, please do. It's a very good version that's very mature now. Lots and lots of hot fixes as we get ready to go to 127. There's I think very little that you would encounter that that would set you back. And we like it's very hard to support the when you encounter things in the older versions. Lots of time the answer is just going to be upgrade. So do make a plan to get there. I don't think we ever really completely eliminate all the older versions. We do have stragglers way back on 121, and that's as far back as I go when I pull statistics. But yeah, I'd love to see the 126 number get higher than the 24s and 25s. We have our compatibility page. If you haven't seen this, almost certainly you've seen this, but we list all of our versions and when it was released, and supported until it's a minimum always of a year, and then what DNNs and all go with that in SQL Server. And then I think I've mentioned this before, but our we don't change the minimums very often, but in 127 at the next version, I believe that our SQL Server goes to SQL 2016 since 2012 is out of date. I think they went 10 years. Somebody correct me if I've got that wrong, but we want to stay with minimums that are supported by in this case, Microsoft. So, that's one of the things. Just be thinking about how we get there, and we list that on the compatibility page.
I'll get up on my soapbox about DNN version at this point too. 9.11.2 was the premiere of the new file management, which really needed some help, and they've improved it. And now they're at just released, I think this week, or was it last week? 9.13.7. 127 is going to be supporting the higher levels without fear of.
Yeah,
That's right.
we officially did development against 9.13 versions, so that's where our official support will start.
Fantastic.
I had a similar question that ties together. Which version will the file manager that Patrick's been working on be available?
I think
1.27.
127. Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I'm sorry, I didn't catch the answer. What was that?
1.27.
Okay, thank you. I know on a number of my sites I've been hanging on to 9.10.2 or something just because of the file manager. And so having a newer, better replacement is worthwhile to me as well.
Good. I've mentioned before, and just throw it out there again, that we are planning to attend and present at DNN Summit, and you should go right now if you haven't registered to dnnsummit.org and register. Preferably in person, because Bogdon has given me a huge entertainment budget, and so I definitely want to buy you all a drink or an eggnog or whatever. And I just this week completed one of the pieces that I'll be presenting. I'm going to save announcements and things, but just teasing a little bit that I think that if you'll come, and if you'll come to my presentation, that's the most important part. We'll have some good things to share. Last week we spent about 45 minutes on expiring cookies, and Ben, at the completion of that, had he sent to us an email of how he solved it and the things that were troubling him last week. But I put together a contribution on our Campfire website that I thought would be worth having a look at. Just having it out there, so if you need a cookie that expires, that there is a pattern to follow. So with that, anybody who's watching this after the fact, it's campfire.plantanapp.com. We just an opportunity to put techniques that might be reusable out somewhere where you can get to them and bring them in. So in this case, just down here at the bottom, I have create test cookie. it can happen you can set different expiration dates for it. I'm going to set a test cookie that lasts for 10 seconds. And so first we get a result that it's been set. I'm going to click get cookie, and it returns it from the cookie. And I'm going to click it a few more times, install until 10 seconds goes by, and then it goes back to a blank value. So it was created, it lasted for a specified time, and then it ended. So this shows exactly how to do that. It's done in my case, what I've done, the value add that I've provided here is that I built a utility cookie expiration token that just lets you specify how long that you want to go. You can express this, for example, as 90 seconds or 3 days or whatever simple format that you can, 2 months, whatever format you need, and it'll compute the right. I think the issue that Ben was running into was it needs to be a UTC date, and I think we were seeing things disappear because they were being computed in something less than UTC and disappearing immediately, so it looked like it wasn't working at all. So this just kind of handles the if you have my token cookie expiration, you can use this format to store that. The token is here, so this is just a copy paste import into tokens, and we'll correctly compute it using datetime relative. I suppose this is this might be, yeah, it uses relative to, so this is going to be did we do relative to in 125 as a hotfix? I think so. Depending on what version you have, this might, I probably should put that on as a prerequisite. This test cookie, when we create it, appears, I mean, cookies are set on your browser, so you see that it appears here. And it has a date and time on it when it expires. There's other variations besides, there's just a session cookie, for example, that you can create, or a very long life cookie. So lots and lots of options when you create them. But if you want a short-term one, which was the challenge we were looking at last week, this is a solution. So if you missed last week, we just in 5 minutes we saved you 45. So hopefully this will be useful. And that is the only thing new in contributions. I'm not generating a conversation on that, so okay.
Mark has a question.
Mark.
Finally figured out how to raise my hand. Say, Dale, are you, can you think of a contribution in there already done, presumably, that would demonstrate stuffing multiple values into the same token inside a workflow, and then how to retrieve those multiple values outside of the workflow? I have a feeling like I've asked this question before, but I'm still not getting that.
Well, tokens, things that you create, trying to parse through that a little bit. Tokens that you create in a workflow, at least normal context tokens, workflow is insulated, so they're not going to pass back. Although you could probably do something with session, but if I understand your question correctly, this sounds like a job for JSON. That if you're determining,
I want multiple values. Sorry to interrupt you. They are multiple values for the same token, and I think sounds like based on what you just said, you already get that. Just want to make sure.
Multiple values. So one token holding a variety of content.
Yes.
So I think the answer, an easy answer is JSON. If you create a JSON string and assign it to an output of a workflow, for example, then that output token, whatever you do, now holds many values that would be easy to parse out. For example, with a parse JSON token, now you can, all the pieces would be in one token, and it would be easier to parse out and get to the other values.
Okay. That is as much as I needed, actually.
Okay.
Yeah, that helps. Thank you.
Sure. In terms of actions, and some of these just don't get used a whole. Well, you don't know about them until you need them, right? But there's some the actions that kind of come into play. Create JSON object, I think, is the one that if we want to put the value B into, well, let's do our make as word, and I'll put this into just going to put it off into info, and I'll do 150 as a string. This action is going to let you create this JSON object very easily. So if I now output info, as a, it's going to make me name this. That we, it does the formatting for you quite easily. Right. So we end up with a JSON object. And then, does that make sense before I move on?
Yes. Yes, that's good.
And the parse JSON into tokens, conversely, if we take that same info string and put it into par, for example, that this is we wouldn't typically do this in this same workflow, but if you were consuming that thing from somewhere else, that this would give you access to what was it, car make, for example. So make could have the value of car make. Let's see if that worked. Yeah. So this is basically the one that would build the JSON. This is a way to parse it out and get so everything that's in the JSON comes out into a token prefix with car, and then you can get to any of the things that are in there. And then this is a spot where I put in an advertisement for the actions that let you understand what you have in context, so that you can context to JSON array or context to objects lets you explore that a little bit more to see what you've got after you do these things. But these two actions, I think, will get you where you want to go.
That is exactly where I wanted to go.
Hello, Jim. We missed you for the first part. We got to start over, I think. You have your hand up?
I do. I just wonder, isn't in a past there was an extend an object action. Could you extend that JSON object in between those two steps and add another value in there, like year or something like that?
Let's try it. I think it might be extend object properties in the object.
Or maybe you build the object as an object before you turn it to JSON. I'm not sure.
This might be working on a list. Somebody, Patrick, do you know this one before I go down the wrong path?
To
I'm
me, it
actually
looks
not
like
sure.
it works at the object level, list level. Otherwise, would call it a list name, not
Okay.
object.
Yeah.
So that would be the the answer is, Jim, yes, you can do it and it's very easy. I just can't do it on the top of my head. Anybody help me through this? I'll try anything. What would we think the object name is here? This is going to be info, I guess. So let's try that. We'll try info and add year and let's see if that does it. No. So, nope, I don't know.
Okay.
All right. However, I see, with these questions, we've made it to the top of our hour. So I'm going to go back to our original agenda, which was, well, here somewhere. There it is. That we did first call and contributions to website, and so now we're all the way up to final thoughts, which is just that I'm grateful to you guys that you come week by week and that we continue to get better at low code, that you give us feedback, and that we're able to help you with the projects that you do. It's been a good ride that we've been doing these last 176 episodes week by week. I'm here for most of them. I'm grateful to Patrick that he shares the load with me doing this and Low Code Cafe, and Bogdan for kicking it all off. So across the board, I'm happy to be doing this with you guys. Our custom is to hang around for Afterglow for a few minutes. So if you're inclined, we'll go into Afterglow here in just a second. We'll turn the recording off and hang out for a few more minutes and wish each other a Merry Christmas. But if not, I'll remind you, we get together and do this again. We'll have a Low Code Cafe episode on the Wednesday the 8th, and no, I'm starting to quote dates and off the top of my head, so that's scary. But the Wednesday, yeah, the Wednesday the 8th, and then we'll do this again January the 10th. So happy low coding, and we will see you then.
Thanks, Dale. Thanks, Bogdan. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Very much.
Happy holidays.